What is going on, everybody? I forgot to turn on my light, so it's a little dark. I guess give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, that's a lot better, actually. Perfect. Okay, so welcome back. Usually we do this show on Thursday. I had to move it up to Wednesday because I coach high school football as well as doing this and as well as having a job. And my coaching staff is meeting Thursday at 7, so I couldn't push that one off. I decided let's just do this a day early. I had all the stuff ready to go, so it works out for me, and hopefully it's working out for some of you guys. I don't know if we're gonna have the same viewership, but that's okay. Whoever's here along for the ride, I appreciate it. Um, my sinuses are acting up a little bit. I was making some food, and I used a little bit of pepper, like red pepper, and because I like my food spicy, and I put it in the oven, and it's just kind of fuming the house right now. So I might sneeze a little bit. And I'm trying to hold back, snot right now. So I might sound a little weird, but that's all it is. So don't worry about that. Um, let's get into some news. So we didn't do a Monday show just because it's so close to the draft, and I want to do a special mock draft next week. Our final first round mock draft, predictive. So we're gonna predict what we think is gonna happen without trade. So it's not gonna be too predictive. And then draft week, we are gonna have a big draft show. So that's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Monday at 7:30, we'll start and we'll do the first two rounds. Then Tuesday, we'll follow up and do rounds 3 and 4. And then Wednesday, we'll do the last 3 rounds. So that's going to be really exciting. It's going to be really fun. And then Thursday, of course, is the first round of the draft. So, yeah, that'll be in 2 weeks' time. But I'm very excited for it. Getting into some of the news. So first thing I want to kind of talk about is Saturday morning, Dwayne Haskins ended up passing away, and it hit a lot of people. I know it hit me, just because it was so unexpected. And he's 3 months younger than me, so it's kind of surprising. And it kind of took me back a little bit and shocked me just because of how young he was. And thinking about that could have been, one of my friends or my brother, my sister. I have a bunch of people that I know that are around that age, and he's younger than me. So even though he didn't play on any teams that I root for, and I didn't really know him that well, it's something that kind of makes you, it kind of shocks you. So I just want to say, don't take life for granted. Don't take any days for granted, even though if you're going to work and maybe it's not a good day at work, you had a bad meeting, you're working on a project and not having fun doing it, just don't take any days for granted, because, you never know how many you have left, or you never know how many any of your loved ones have left. So I know that was kind of a darker, kind of sadder topic that we just talked about. And I didn't really want to start the episode off like that, but I didn't really know exactly how to shoehorn that in other than at the very beginning, bringing that up. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. Also, so on more of a brighter note, let's try to have a more upbeat episode today, other than that one part. So we got a new patron on Patreon. If you guys want to support the show, it's not necessary. But if you do, the link is down in the bio. It just helps me out. It helps fund the website. It helps, if I end up going to some of these scouting events, it can fund that as well. And it just kind of lets me know that, hey, you guys are liking the content. So leaving a like and subscribing to the YouTube channel is going above and beyond, I believe. But if you wanted to do a little bit more, the Patreon is down below. So thank you, George Dutcher, for joining the Patreon. I appreciate that, and I hope I can get you backstage and we can talk about some prospects here and there in the future. So thank you again for that. Now getting to some NFL news. So there were a couple quarterbacks that were expecting to get extensions probably before the beginning of the season. One was Derek Carr and another one's Lamar Jackson. Those are the big two. Kyler Murray also is up there. He's probably going to get one as well. So Derek Carr just got an extension. It was a 3-year, $152 million extension. So added on to, I think he's making like $23 million this year. And I'm sure some of that is being pushed onto this year as well. So, that's, again, about $50 million a year for those other years. But some of it will be pushed onto this year. And I haven't seen the details, but I assume that it's, going to be around $40 million a year, which I think he's a top 7 quarterback. So the quarterback landscape's only going to get more and more money added to it. So I think it was really smart of them to go ahead and just extend him now. Again, it's only 3 years, so got him for a 4-year deal. You can probably move on from him after 3, I'd assume. So you're not locked in too long term. It's also not taking that much money away from other positions. So I think it was good for them to go ahead and lock him down and see what they can do in a really tough AFC right now. Excuse me, I told you I was going to be trying to clear my sinuses a little bit. So the next news, Dan Campbell is kind of getting a little bit of flack for some of his comments he made about essentially not needing a superstar quarterback to go deep into the playoffs and win in this league, is what he was saying. And he has Jared Goff as his quarterback right now, and he doesn't want to be. I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said. You're backing your quarterback, especially since that you don't want to be pigeonholed into taking a quarterback this year. If you don't like any of them at 2, which I think 2 is a little rich for every single one of them, and then at 32, if you only like 1 or 2 of them and they're gone by then, you don't want to be pigeonholed into grabbing a quarterback. So I think he's lowering expectations for the fan base. No one's expecting him to win right now. Let's go ahead and stay with Jared Goff, who, again, has taken the Rams to a Super Bowl. They lost, but he took them there. Let's go ahead and stick with our quarterback, not put any pressure on the guy, not put any pressure on the organization to draft one right now. So I took away from his comments just that, he didn't want to jump into trying to get a superstar quarterback right now. All right, a little bit more on my life now before we jump into this. Someone told me that this is one of their favorite parts of the podcast is listening to me rant. So I'm gonna rant just a little bit longer now. So baseball season started, and so I went into my my betting account, and I was gonna place a little bit of, just a couple units here and there on a couple games, which, again, I'm not advising anyone to gamble, but I put a set amount in at the beginning of the year. And once it's gone, it's gone. And that's my way of just kind of having fun. And it's not a lot of money. It's just something to do and something to keep me more invested in games. So, I went in to try to bet on some baseball, and my account was really, really low. So I didn't realize how much I lost during the actual football season until I went to bet on baseball. So I have a couple units left, and I'm sprinkling them here and there, just trying to keep myself alive so I don't have to put any more money into it. I haven't put any money into it since 2 years ago. So I've stayed above zero for the past 2 years, but I think it's coming back and it's about to bite me. So we'll see. I have a parlay going right now. Tampa money line is all I need right now, and I have the game on. So they're down 3-0 going into the bottom of the, I think they're going into the They're going into the top of the fourth right now, and they're down 3-0. So it's not looking good. I had the Giants come in clutch for me with the money line, and I had Boston minus 1.5 runs, and they ended up winning by 2. So those two did well. It's Tampa. 2 nights ago, I bet on Tampa as well, and they bit me in the butt. So, it's a little rough out there, but that's all right. So if you see me looking off in the corner, it's because I'm just checking in on that Rays game. So the next thing, perfect. These are the last things before we get into the stuff and into the good stuff. So the Carolina Panthers are bringing in a bunch of quarterbacks over this next week to do interviews before the draft. So basically all the quarterbacks that are projected to go in the top 5 rounds, they're bringing in everyone from Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, all the way up to Carson Strong, Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, Jack Cohn as well. So they're bringing in a bunch of people. I think they're drafting quarterback. I think they're going to see if they can get a guy like Sam Howell, if they like him, get a guy like him in the second round. But I think they're going quarterback at 6, and I think it's a huge mistake. Then going to Seattle, only quarterback they've brought in is Desmond Ridder. So it's either Desmond Ridder at 9 if they feel really comfortable taking him there, which, I think he's my QB3, but he does have some upside. My whole thing with him is accuracy. So, or maybe they trade back and get him in the 20s or something. I'm not sure. There's still Baker Mayfield out there if they want to trade for him. So I think it's Desmond Ridder for them or no one at the quarterback position, and they just roll with Drew Lock. So we'll see what happens, but that's the only quarterback they've brought in that is just Desmond Ridder. So I don't think unless they're just trying to throw off the scent of them being high on Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. But we'll see in 2 weeks. All right, so now we're going to get into the day 3 defensive sleepers. Again, there are a lot of good players in this draft. This draft is not – it's been kind of beat on because it doesn't have the premier talents, especially at quarterback, and that's what's usually bringing it down. But again, the edge rushers, there's a lot of good edge rushers in this group, but there's not a Myles Garrett or a Joey Bosa or anyone like that in this year's class. But again, this class is really, really deep. If I was a team that had a top 10 pick, I would think about trading that top 10 pick back and getting, if I could get for that top 10 pick a late first, a second, 2/3, and a 4th, I would do that in a heartbeat. Just because there's so much depth. And I think in the 3rd round, you're going to see a lot of guys starting in the NFL from the 3rd and 4th round this year, maybe even making Pro Bowls. This is a really, really deep draft class, way deeper than last year's draft class. Last year's draft class had some guys up front, but a lot of guys stayed in college that were going to be 4th, 5th round guys, stayed in college to see if they could bump their stock up a little more because they had that extra COVID year. So this one's really, really deep. And again, I said in the offensive sleepers, about 40 guys I could put there. Defensive sleepers, probably around 40 guys that I could put on this list as well. I had a hard time narrowing it down, so I have 9 guys on here, and some guys that I left off that I really didn't want to, but I had to. I wrote their names down as honorable mentions. Jeremiah Moon, he's an edge linebacker hybrid. You kind of think of Micah Parsons, kind of that, where he can play stand up. He can also play the edge rusher position. He's like that, just a discount version. He's not as good. He's not as fast, but he would play that exact same role where you can have him rushing off the edge, but you can have him as a stand up guy as well. Really good linebacker edge hybrid from Florida. Big Cat Bryant, another defensive lineman from UCF. He was originally at Auburn, transferred to UCF. He plays that edge. He can go in probably to about a 2-eye. That's a little pushing it, though. I'd say probably a 3-eye is the deepest into the offensive or defensive line he can go. He's really good. Another guy, Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma. He's another linebacker. I really like him, his physicality, his speed, his quickness, and he's got good base under him as well. He's not going to get bullied by offensive linemen. So I think he's going to shoot up draft boards. He might end up going in the third round. So that's why I kind of decided not to put him on here, as well as there are a bunch of other guys that I really, really liked that I think will go a little later, but I think will have solid impact. So I decided to put them on the list as instead. Another guy, Amari Barno, an edge rusher from Virginia Tech, super raw, super toolsy. He wins with quickness, but he does have the size that he can end up winning with power as well. He just has to refine some things, but I can see him going probably fifth round, late fourth, early fifth round. I could see him going, and I think he's going to make an impact as a rotational third down specialist to start out. This one's an interesting one. This one is probably one of my favorite fifth, sixth round guys that I didn't put on the list is Jacoby Durant, cornerback from South Carolina State. He is long, he is physical, and he plays the ball really, really well. So whatever team he goes to, I think he'll start with special teams, but he might start rotating in that first year and being a guy, if someone goes down, he's good, or if someone just needs a breather, he's also good. So I think he can start on special teams, especially day one, but I would not be surprised if he rotated in the middle of the year. So whatever team gets him, probably a fifth, sixth rounder, late fifth, early sixth rounder is a round where I think he'll go. Really, really talented guy. The last honorable mention is Joshua Williams, cornerback from Fayetteville State. He went to the Senior Bowl, and he was he was competing at a high level with all these wide receivers at the Senior Bowl, like Christian Watson. So Christian Watson's a wide receiver, height, weight, speed guy, and he was competing one-on-one with him. So really, really talented from Fayetteville State. I like his tape as well. I think he'll probably be a sixth round guy who works in as a special teamer, but could end up, if an injury happens, could end up taking an outside receiver role and thriving there, or an outside corner role and thriving there. So without further ado, let's get into my defensive day 3 sleeper. I will share my screen now. All right. Okay. So I apologize that this screen is a little stretched out. I used the wrong layout to make it, and so it was a square layout for Instagram, and I used it on here just because I forgot to make the other one that's a little more rectangular for this. So excuse that, but this is the day 3 defensive sleepers. So starting off, we have Zion McCollum, cornerback from Sam Houston State. He is a beast. He, again, was a guy that was at the Senior Bowl and competed at a very, very high level. All scouts were talking about him in the one-on-one drills and in practice, just competing with every single receiver and doing and holding his own against receivers, which in those one-on-one drills, the cornerback is not supposed to win. Just because there's so much advantage for the wide receiver with so much space opened up and no one's pressuring the quarterback. Defensive backs are not supposed to win those one-on-one drills, and he held his own. So he's 23 years old, which is solid, which is fine. 6'2", 199 pounds. So he has good length. His arms could be a little longer. His arms are a little small, but with his height, and his arms are a fine size. Anything over 30 is good, and they're about to be 31 inches. Is really good. Plus his RAS is a 999. I'll have the RAS on the next slide, so we can go ahead and look at that stuff. But just a really good athlete, really good competitor, and honestly, he might go in the top 100 picks. So he might not be a day 3 guy, especially if someone fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl. Here's his RAS. So again, he's 6'2", 199 pounds, basically 6'2", 200. His vertical 39.5. That's a 9.26 on the RAS. Broad jump 11. That's really, really good. And 11 is really good. His 40-yard dash 4.33, ridiculous. His 10-yard split, ridiculous. His shuttle, his 3-cone, everything's just shooting off the chart. This is one of the best corner RAS scores of this year. So I would not be surprised if this guy got picked within the top 100, and rightfully so. I think he would live up to those expectations. So that is Zion McCollum from Sam Houston State. Going on to my second corner prospect, Alontae Taylor from Tennessee. He's 23 years old. He's 6 feet tall. He weighs 200 pounds, and he has long arms. He's super lanky as a corner. His RAS was a 9.85. And he, again, is a really good athlete. He's really long. And Hi, buddy. What? Kitty wanted some love. Sorry. Yeah, he's really long, really physical. He can come downhill and make tackles as well. For a corner, you usually don't see that, but he's a really physical, long cornerback, and with those long arms, he makes up. If he gets, taken up over the top, it's really hard to go ahead and drop one in over him, just because of how long his arms are, and he's got the speed to make up for it as well. So here's his RAS score. He ran a 4.36. And again, his vertical was the worst thing on this, but his broad jump is great. His 10-yard split was great, and that 40-yard dash is also great. So he has the speed to make up for any mistakes that he makes, but he's also very physical and has very long arms as well. So he's a super good athlete, super long corner. NFL teams love that kind of stuff. So again, he doesn't have the most production on tape, and so I think that's gonna be one of the reasons why he's picked on day 3. But I really do think that I could see this man coming in and starting as a number 2 corner alongside someone. Maybe maybe going to Minnesota and starting next to Patrick Peterson, learning some of the stuff from him. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks end up taking him, and he might be their number 1 cornerback, actually, even though I think he'll probably go in the 5th round. But Alontae Taylor, that's probably my second. Yeah, I think I like Zion McCollum better. I really like Alontae Taylor, and I don't think I have anyone else on this list that can compete with Alontae Taylor. So, yeah, he's my second favorite out of the whole group that I'm going to show you, second favorite corner. But I think he's still gonna be something in the NFL. So. Rays are making a comeback right now. It's 3-1. We'll see what happens there. All right, next guy. I think, again, I really like this guy, and so I wanted to put him on here. I don't know if he actually qualifies as a day 3 guy. Troy Anderson, linebacker from Montana State, is a freak of an athlete and a freak of a football player. Every single one of the guys on here, I'm going to keep saying freak athlete, because a lot of them are day 3 guys because they don't have the production, but they have the raw athleticism that people think, okay, I can take a chance on them. So Troy Anderson started out as a quarterback for Montana State. And actually became the all, I don't remember what conference Montana State is in, but he was an all-conference quarterback for them. The next year, their running back went down. He moved to running back, became an all-conference running back that second year. And then he transitioned to linebacker, so 3 years in 3 different positions, and became an all-conference linebacker for them. So this guy is ridiculous. He's one of the greatest football players I've ever seen. He can play multiple positions, and he's done it at a high level. So this guy, I don't think he's going to last until day 3, but if he does, somebody is going to get a steal right here. He's 22 years old only, so he still is really young. He's 6'3", 243 pounds. He's got the speed that if he was 215, 220 pounds, people would love him. But he's 240 pounds. And I think he's going to go in the top 85 picks. Even though he hasn't played linebacker long, but he is 240 pounds and what did he run? A 4.43, I think? 4.42 at 240 pounds is just absurd. That's kind of like Devin White type numbers, and Devin White's 225 pounds. So again, freak athlete. I love this man on tape, and I think honestly, if you told me that he was never a Pro Bowler, I would believe you. But again, I think he's a guy who you end up getting at linebacker. Maybe he's not your Mike. Maybe he plays a little outside linebacker for you. Maybe you move him to safety. He might be able to play safety for you. Maybe you move him back to the offensive side. I think you use him as a weapon. I don't know how you go wrong with a player like this. Just use him as a weapon. You can move him around the defense. You can put him on offense if you need to for gadget plays. I really, really like this guy. And the RAS score of a 998 is ridiculous as well at 243 pounds. Running the way he did, his broad jump being a 10 at that size is ridiculous as well. Just everything about this guy is just raw athlete waiting to be turned into a football player. The next guy I have on here, Juanyeh Thomas from Georgia Tech. He's a safety, and he is a downhill thumper. That's really all I have to say about him. His ball skills could use a little bit of work. They're okay. They're not great. But you don't want to be coming across the middle on a slant when he's creeping down. And if he's playing in that nickel and you try to catch a bubble screen, it might be lights out for you. The ball might be fumbled and go in the opposite direction. He is a thumper, downhill monster at 212 pounds. He's got good arm length for a safety as well, and he's 6'1". His RAS score is good. He's a good athlete, not great athlete, but for a safety, that's 212 pounds, and it's really just a thumper. A 4.55 40-yard dash is more than good for that. His broad jump and vertical are fine. They're not great, but they're fine. I think he's going to come into the league and he's going to play that, at Jamal Adams or a Brandon Jones, one of those linebackers that plays in the box, Keanu Neal, one of those guys, someone that plays in the box, helps on run support, can guard some tight ends. I think he can guard some tight ends, and it's just going to be a really physical monster, kind of one of those pieces you can move. You can move him up top and play too high, but I think he's best used down in the box as a box safety. So I could see him going 5th round, but I think he's more of a 6th round guy. But again, worst case scenario, he's a first down, second down kind of guy, just helping you run support and a special teamer. So if you're telling me I'm getting a good special teamer and a guy that can help me on goal line packages or run down situations, in the 5th round, 6th round, I'm doing backflips. That's how excited I am. Oh, let's go. All right, sorry, I was waiting to see if the Rays got a strikeout on that one. So let's move on to the next guy. Whoops. Next guy is Zachary Carter from Florida. I put him as a defensive lineman because he's very versatile. He can play anywhere from a 5 technique, somewhere where you play outside of the tackles. He can play an edge on some occasions, but I think he's stronger suited in a 3-4 if he plays that 3-eye technique, 4-eye, 5, something like that. Or in a 4-3, he could play one technique and he could play, but he's more listed. He's better off as a 3 technique in that 4-3. But he fits any scheme, and he can play multiple positions. You can move him around. He's a really good pin your ears back pass rusher, especially from the inside. He's a really good pass rusher from inside the tackles in the guard spots. Um, Again, his RAS score is not very good, but he's 6'4", 280 pounds. His RAS is okay, but really, I don't care about his 40. I care about his 10-yard split, and that 10-yard split tells me he's got good enough explosiveness that he can end up playing on the edge if he had to. He can end up playing on the inside. Again, his bench score is not that good. 19 is a 1.65 on the RAS score, but 19 is good enough where he can end up extending on these offensive linemen. I'm not worried about anything on this screen with any of these RAS numbers. I see the 10-yard split, tells me how explosive he is, and it verifies the tape. That's all I care about is for RAS, the combine, and pro days. I want those numbers to verify what my eyes see on tape. And that 10-yard split verifies what my eyes see on tape. He's quick enough to play on the edge. He's strong enough to play on the interior. He can play anywhere on the defensive line. He's going to be a stud. Okay? So that's what I got on Zachary Carter from Florida. Next one, another safety. There's a lot of strong safeties in this class. There are a lot of strong safeties in this class. JT Woods, a freak athlete, he might just end up being one of the better day 3 safeties in this class. He's 6'2", 195 pounds. He's not as physical as a guy like Juan Yee from Georgia Tech is, but this man from Baylor is really good. You can play him all around the defense. Play him in the nickel. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you saying that about the slides. I worked hard on it. So JT Woods is a guy you can play, and I think he's going to be one of those nickel guys. This year, everyone's talking about Daxton Hill, Jalen Petrie are going to be those kinds of guys, and I think they will be, and I think they'll be really, really good. But this is that next tier where if you don't want to use a second-round pick on one of those guys, because that's what it's going to cost, Daxton Hill might end up going in the first round just because he's so versatile. JT Woods is that guy that you can get in the 4th round. I think JT Woods will go in the 4th round, and I think he's going to end up, being that day 3 steal because he's going to play multiple positions on your defense, and he's going to play them all at a high level. So I'm very excited to see what JT Woods can do in the NFL, and I'm very curious to see what defense he gets selected to. Here's his RAS, a 4.36, absurd numbers. His arms are so long. His 10-yard split is good. I wish we got a shuttle from him. I wish we got a 3-cone. I just want to see the hips and how they move, but the tape shows they move pretty darn well. I just would love to have seen the numbers behind it, but that's okay. We got the 10-yard split. We got the arm size. And again, the RAS tells what your RAS confirms what your eyes see on tape. And I see a darn good player on tape. So I think we have 3 guys left. Yeah, we have 3 guys left. So Marquise Bell, free safety from Florida A&M. This guy can play up top and play a single high safety. He can also come down and be a box safety for you. He can also play outside corner for you. He can play nickel corner for you. This is another guy who can be moved all around the defense. I see him going in the 6th, 7th round. He's going to be a very late round pick just because he didn't go up against the best competition. But he performed well at the combine. He performed really, really well at the combine. So it might have raised some eyeballs. Maybe he gets drafted in the 5th round, but most likely I see him going in the 6th, 7th round. I see him being a special teams ace, and I would not be surprised if in the first 2 years he ends up getting a little bit of playing time and playing pretty well just because of how versatile he really is. I'm not sure where he'll get drafted, but again, he's a guy that can play anywhere on the defense. So if I was a defensive coordinator for one of these teams, this is the kind of guy I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for these 4th, 5th, 6th round guys like what we just looked through with JT Woods and Marquise Marquise Bell and some of these other guys. And I would be begging my general manager to take one of these guys just so I can figure out, just so I can have a weapon and a chess piece that I can move around the defense and kind of keep those offensive coordinators on their heels. So here's his RAS, at 6'2", 212 pounds. He ran a 4.4 40. His 10-yard split's good. His shuttle wasn't the greatest, so he might have issues guarding, some of those speedy or good route running slot receivers. You think of guys like Cooper Kupp. You think of guys like Scotty Miller. Think of guys that are shifty in the slot. He might have problems with that. But if you want to put him up against the tight end, go ahead. If you got a big slot, he can go guard your big slot. And he can play up top for you as well. So really, really like this guy as well. I think he's going to be a late round guy, a 6th round, 7th round guy. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. All right. Last guy until we get into one of my special teamers. This is James Houston, the 4th linebacker from Jackson State. He played at Florida for a couple years. Didn't really see the field, and so he transferred to Jackson State, where he put up lights out numbers. Again, this is one of those guys who's super versatile. He can play that stand-up linebacker position. He can also play an edge rushing position. Again, you think of Michael Parsons, but tone it down a little bit. It's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys are doing with Micah Parsons, where they have him playing the Mike one time, and then on third downs they put him as an edge rusher, and they just move him around the defense. That's exactly what you can do with James Houston. I think he's going to be a 7th round guy, but again, he's 6'1", 225 pounds. There's no RAS on him, but he's quick. He's a very quick linebacker. He can play that edge, like we said. His pass rush moves need some work. He can play stand-up linebacker and cover in third downs. But again, I think that's going to need some work as well. And he's a thumper. He loves to hit. He loves to get his nose in with the ball every single time. So, again, he has all the intangibles you would want. He has all the traits you would want to be able to coach up. He's only 22 years old. If someone takes him in the 7th round, it might be a year, it might be 2 years before he really sees playing time just because he is so raw. But I think he's a guy that 3-4 years down the road could end up being a Pro Bowler or could end up being a key piece that brings a team to the playoffs. He could be a game changer on defense depending on where he goes and if he gets the right coaching. So I love James Houston, the 4th from Jackson State. And I think whoever gets him in the 7th round is, again, going to have a steal. I'm putting this down as my steal of the draft. James Houston, the 4th from Jackson State. You can book that right now. All right, my last guy, Matt Araiza. He's not a kicker. He's a punter from San Diego State. I put kicker. That's my fault. So basically the stats that I have on him. Does he kick long? Yes. He's kicked multiple 65-plus yard punts. And it's not like he's just bombing them and out-kicking his coverage. His coverage gets down there. Can he kick accurately? Yes. He, at the combine, was kicking 40-yarders and just dropping them inside the 5. He did that multiple times. Super accurate. And is he a good holder? That's one of the things that when people see punters, they don't really think, oh, well, can he hold the ball correctly? They just think, can he pin it inside the 10? But the best kicker or the best punters are great holders, and he's a really good holder as well. I think you could see him going as early as probably the late 2nd round, but I think realistically he's a 4th to 5th round guy. I have an early 4th round grade on him. I think he's really good, and I think he is a game changer because he can flip the field, and he's a sure-handed holder as well. So he's not gonna end up not spinning the laces or placing the ball at a slight angle, and next thing you know, you see the ball drift off one way, and everyone's yelling at the kicker for missing the kick. Well, it was really the holder's fault. and he's a really good holder, so I don't see that happening with him. All right, that was my defensive day three defensive sleepers. There we go. That's my day three defensive sleepers right there. I don't have anything else to say. I will see you guys on Monday at 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time, and we will do our final one-round mock draft. So I'm super excited for that. Appreciate everyone stopping by and seeing this. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with some of these picks, and also leave some of your favorite day three sleepers as well. Thank you guys. Have a great day, and remember, enjoy every day like it's your last.